welcome to Team Talk, where we're talking about the history of Pride Month and basically why it all started. So I'm just going to go right into it. So Pride Month honours the 1969 Stonewall Uprising in Manhattan in New York. So to put it in a bit of context, it was illegal to serve alcohol to a gay person until 1966, and Stonewall around the 1970s was one of the most popular gay bars in New York, 1960s. But many of these bars were run by the mafia, and because it was illegal to serve alcohol to gay people, they just didn't have a drinks license. So the police would regularly raid them. They'd be scenes of police brutality. They do terrible things to people at these venues. They were full of trans people, gender questioning people, drag queens, lesbians, gay men. The full spectrum of the LGBTQ plus community. But in the early hours of June the 28th in 1969, basically the community had had enough, so they started to fight back and they locked themselves in the Stonewall Inn, which was a very, as I say, popular bar in 1969. So the riots started, but it dispersed around 4 a.m. that morning, but news spread throughout of New York, and by that evening there were thousands of people outside the Stonewall Inn just saying, "We've had enough, this is not fair anymore, this is unjust." And that is basically where gay pride, especially the march, came from, because they did 1 year later in 1970 on the 29th a march to honour everyone who fought for gay rights on that day. There were some uprisings before then, but this is kind of a pivotal moment where the world basically started to listen. And then in the UK, the Gay Liberation Front was formed, and they did their first gay pride march in 1972. So I'll explain why all this context is important. So next I'm going to come to the UK and kind of the history of homosexuality specifically, basically gay rights in the UK. So it starts as early as Henry VIII's time. So in 1533, he basically passed an act making sodomy, sex between two men, punishable by death. It wasn't until 1861 that this was changed, but to 10 years in prison. And then in 1885, it was illegal to have any homosexual acts, even call another man by an affectionate name, and even if it was in private. It was all completely illegal. In 1946, trans identity started to become a bit more mainstream, but there was still a lot of arrests post-World War II of homosexual men. This just kept rising. There was a commissioned report, and that led to the Sexual Offences Act of 1967, which made it legal for a same-sex relationship to have sex, but they had to be over 21. Also, in 1988, Margaret Thatcher brought in Section 28 Act, which made it illegal for any kind of information about LGBTQ people to be mentioned in schools. There was no support for anyone who identified that. So the reason why I'm identifying this is because people are like, we don't have straight pride. It's like, well, you haven't had to fight for anything. You don't have to fight to be straight. It is assumed that everyone is straight and conforms to a certain way. And I was reading all the bills that were repealed in my lifetime. So gay men weren't allowed to have sex with the sexual age. That 21-year-old age gap was not changed until 2001, and in Northern Ireland it was 2009. We couldn't have civil partnerships till 2004. Trans was not even recognised until 2004. This is not that long ago. Same-sex marriage was 2013, and the law to just simply protect LGBTQ plus people did not come in until 2010. I'd been to uni by then. It's not that long ago. So And I also want to highlight, this is just the law and legislation changing. So you think how long it takes for people's attitudes to change to this. So, you know, whilst I have been very fortunate, there are many people in the community who have not, who still are fighting day in, day out. And I'm only talking about the US and the UK. Around the world, there's still places where it's illegal to be gay, to be anything is punishable by death in parts of the world. And, you know, so this is why it's important that I stand here, well, sit on my bed, but I think our community stands up and goes, everyone is welcome. There is no judgment. We don't care how you identify, who you love. We are just here for you to come and have a good time and get fit. But also, I am supporting AKT, and I'm wearing one of their reimagined versions of the Pride flag, because this week, from Monday until Sunday, anyone who comes to classes, online, in person, I will donate £2 for each person who comes to the charity, and they basically help homeless, LGBTQ plus youths, and help people to find the support they need to live their truth, because maybe it's violent at home, maybe it's not safe for them, maybe they've just simply been kicked out. I have a friend, a good friend, and I know he was kicked out by his dad when he suspected he was gay. So it's still happening to people today. We like to think it's not, and you know, birds of a feather flock together. Our community is very welcoming, and I am very proud that we don't judge people. But this is why we're making a stand. This is why it's important that we do something. Because, you know, people are like, oh, straight rights, what about them? You haven't had to fight anything. Your way of life has not been illegal. Now, yes, women's rights, a lot has been illegal for you, but I am a gay man, so I haven't really done much to support my community, and I think it's now time that I start to. You know, the more I read into this, the more I was like, oh my god, this is a big deal. You know, it's in my lifetime, 2 years after I was born, it was illegal to talk in schools about homosexuality. I think I was fortunate that they mentioned it at school, but you know, it's just crazy to think we live in that world. But anyway, soapbox over. Let me know if you were shocked by anything I said today. I was shocked when I was reading it. But yeah, let's fight for people who are maybe not accepted and loved for who they are. Really important. I'm signing off now. Au revoir. Take care. Love to you all. Goodbye.